Hey everyone, Sky here to discuss American Pie 2, starring Jason Biggs, Chris Klein, Tara Reid, Eddie K. Thomas, Mina Suvari, Shannon Elizabeth, Natasha Lyonne, Sean William Scott, Thomas Ian Nicholas, Allison Hannigan, and Eugene Levy, and directed by J.B. Rogers. Now, before I talk about the movie, I got in trouble last week because I did the copyright claim thing with the music last time. So I'm not going to do that again for the rest of the show, or the rest of the movies too, might I add. But we'll see if anybody can tell me how to do it and make sure that it's not copyrighted or anything like that. Let me know how that works in the bottom on the comments. And yeah, I have seen the movie before though. It's been, I guess, 5 years maybe. I don't really remember off the top of my head. But let's get into this movie, shall we? Jim, returned by Jason Biggs, has a no string attached sex with Natalie as Jim's dad, returned by Eugene Levy, comes in the dorm room and shocks them, and Jim's mom comes in, and so does Natalie's parents, as they're angry, whereas Jim's dad is not embarrassed, as Jim is. And the opening sequence is rather embarrassing as we pick up while Oz, returned by Chris Klein, and Stifler, returned by Sean William Scott, as well as Heather, returned by Mina Suvari, and Kevin, returned by Thomas Ian Nicholas, and Finch, returned by Eddie K. Thomas, as they finish off their first year of college and go to Stifler's place and for a party. And we see Jessica, returned by Natasha Lyonne, and Vicky, returned by Tara Reid, and Sherman, who I don't care for this time as well as last time. Meanwhile, on the way, Oz drops off Heather at the airport. Kevin and Vicky were a couple last time, but this time they're now friends and have broken up, and their first scene was very awkward. Finch goes into Stifler's mom's room, and Stifler comes in and chases Finch out of the house. And the two MILF guys are back, and honestly, this movie is more crude than funny, in my opinion. And Stifler is more obnoxious and annoying than last time, where he was fine, but here I don't like him anymore as he's in a lot of these scenes, and the movie lowers and lowers my opinion of it as he's on screen, and the more he's in the movie, the less I like him. The cops come into the Stifler house and shut down their parties, and Kevin's brother, returned by Casey Affleck, tells him about the lake house to have a party there, and I'm not liking nor connecting with these characters at all. Jim gets a phone call from Nadia, returned by Shannon Elizabeth, telling Jim she's going to see Jim at the end of summer as it's summertime, and Kevin tells Oz, Jim, and Finch to pack their bags and they go to the lake house and have a party at the end of the summer, and they realize they can't afford the lake house with summer jobs with just four, and Kevin also invites Stifler to join along to help pay it for it. And I thought, oh boy, give him till the end of the movie because he really got on my nerves throughout the fucking movie. They get a job painting at a house with lesbians living there, which is what they'll led to believe later in the movie. Meanwhile, Jim goes to band camp to talk with Michelle, returned by Allison Hannigan, about how he was in the sack, and she said that he sucked to Jim, and he joins the band camp for a few minutes and plays an instrument that sounds like a horn, and that was embarrassing. And this movie is full of embarrassing scenes, as this movie is an embarrassment of a sequel. Wait till we get to those American Pie Presents shit. And I'm not laughing as much as I did 15, 20 years ago at this point, as I'm getting too old for this movie, and I don't really like the characters in this movie either, as I can't connect with their arcs. The gang throws a party with very little females, as Stifler purposefully gets some girls from the beach, and Stifler says the force is strong with this one, which is a Star Wars line. I don't know why I don't know why Stifler said that, as Kevin learns Vicky slept with one guy and he hooks up with three, and I call bullshit at this point. Stifler assumes the girls they work for named Danielle and Amber are lesbians, as Oz calls Heather, and they have a phone sex, and Stifler interrupts them as he picks up the phone with as a smirk on my was on my face as Stifler says, "Oh Heather, baby, why don't you tell me my dick is as big as Stifler's?" But I wasn't laughing. That was more of a smirk. Stifler finds lesbian merchandise, for example, a dildo, as he finds some more, and Jim gets Finch to get Stifler out of there as Danielle and Amber get home and get undressed, and they hear noises as Jim, Finch, and Stifler get caught. And Stifler wants to prove they're lesbians, and they tease them by making the girls do sexual things to each other, as they and ask the guys to do sexual things with them. And everyone hears it on the walkie-talkie, and the guys run out after the girls want them on the walkie wants them to give the other guys hand jobs. And maybe the best scene in the entire movie, as it's adequate at best. Michelle teaches Jim to kiss and be better with sex when she stuck an instrument up his ass, which sounds uncomfortable, and the scene was uncomfortable in general, at least I'll say. Jim watches a video that'll make him masturbate as he's superglued with one hand on his dick and the other on the VHS video as someone calls the cops, and they arrive as is on the roof and is taken to the hospital as his dad shows up. And in the unrated version, Jim is sitting there waiting, and an old lady overreacts by the tape title, and Jim's dad says out loud Jim's situation, and Jim gets bandaged on his dick a week before the party, and it felt stupid that Jim put super glue on his dick in the first place. The next morning, Stifler's little brother comes into the lake house as Finch embarrasses himself, leading to believe it was Stifler's mom, and the movie is just getting on my nerves. And this thing needed at least 15 minutes in the editing room, as it's a little too long for a raunchy comedy. And I said that a lot with Judd Apatow's movies, and this thing needed it right off the bat. Nadia surprises Jim at the lake house and stays there as Jim gets Michelle's help as she comes to the lake house pretending to be boyfriend-girlfriend. And this movie is awkwardly acted, and the day of the party, Jim and Michelle break up in a pretend kind of way, and the party begins as Kevin freaks out as Vicky brings a date to the party and sitting on the beach when Jim, Finch, and Oz come to cheer him up. And the party continues as Kevin apologizes to Vicky's date. And Jim and Nadia go to the lighthouse, and Jim realizes he's in love with Michelle and gets her at band camp to go to the party. Meanwhile, Heather arrives to the lake house to surprise Oz, and Stifler's brother was on cop watch until he hooks up with Danielle and Amber, as Stifler hooks up with them as the brother is welcomed back to the party, and Sherman finally has sex with Nadia as the Shermanator, and the party continues as everyone is having a hell of a time as Jim, Finch, Kevin, and Oz toast to the next step during the party. And the next morning, Stifler had Danielle and Amber, Oz and Heather sleep together, as does Jim and Michelle, and they become boyfriend-girlfriend, and Sherman wakes up with not a virgin anymore with Nadia, and Stifler's mom, returned by Jennifer Coolidge, arrives as the gang are about to leave. Then Finch goes with her in her car, and Stifler wonders who was that in the car. And Finch once again has sex with Stifler's mom, and the climax didn't make me laugh, and I don't want anything to do with Stifler, as he got on my last fucking nerve. And he's going to be in the next one. I'm sorry, but he's going to annoy the crap out of me there too. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 3.8 out of 10. This movie is not as funny as the original American Pie, and I smirked at one scene, and the best scene is the lesbian scene, and that's not saying much. The movie is awkward, embarrassing, and a little too long, as it needed at least 15 minutes cut out of it. I don't like the characters in the movie, particularly Stifler, and that makes me nervous for the future of American Wedding, as well as American Reunion, as well as the American Pie Presents pile of shit. Will we follow the Stifler family? And I'm not really looking forward to that. I'm not going to lie. I'm really not going to look forward to that. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with American Wedding. And until next time, oh, Heather, baby. Or to the next step, second thought.